to commend you doing David Bowie on American Gods.
Oh, thank you.
That must have been surreal, and I caught all the song lyric references too.
Oh, you did?
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
What was that like to kind of almost channel him in a way?
Challenging. A lot of research, and yeah, I don't even. It was the first time I think that in doing those characters, that I had the conundrum of deciding how much of this is the character, how much of it appropriate is it appropriate to try and emulate the real person, and at what point does the actual character of media step in, and what the balance is. And so yeah, it was actually harder than I thought it was going to be, but thank you.
You pulled it off.
Thank you. That's sweet. Thank you.
So moving on to X-Files,
Yes.
what's been, not that it's a great question, but what's been the biggest surprise about coming back to the world of the X-Files after the long hiatus?
I guess the biggest surprise is how much fun it can be. We've had a lot of fun, and I don't want to say this because there's nobody around to tap on, but we're halfway through miraculously, and it feels like the hours have been kinder to us this year. We haven't been pulling many 17-hour days, which we used to do all the time.
Right.
And so, as an old person, that's quite nice. Anyway, so it feels like we are delivering everything that is expected of us to deliver, but it feels more manageable.
So, how have you seen the genre of television change over the length of your career? So you've been doing this for a long time. And you're so good and relevant. And
how have I seen the genre of television change? Well, certainly, us as a show being so much at the beginning of this type of TV, whether there was so much money put into the cinematography, and there was an attention to, it felt very filmic from the very beginning, to introducing something that was so addictive that people had to come back every single week and watch it en masse with families or individual, So we were very much at the beginning of that addiction, which of course with streaming, etc., has become a way of life. And also at the beginning of proper regular sci-fi on television, and every other film is sci-fi, every other television show is sci-fi. There's a lot of but one of the things that we have always done, which doesn't seem to be picked up on by other shows, is the fact that we have all of our episodes are quite different. There are 3 different types of episodes that we do. We do the mythology episodes, and we do the comedic episodes, and we do the Monster of the Week episodes, and somehow we were able to sell that in a way that the audience accepted as being a part of our world and our reality. And I think that's an element of it that fans have come to appreciate within the genre. And so it feels, on the one hand, quite unique to what it is that we do, and different from the genre as it has continued on television going forward, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Gillian,
Thank you.
you have now this very sturdy foundation with Scully that you and the writers developed, with the first season coming back for this new season. Was there anything, not so much to change Scully, but was there anything that you wanted to bring, or that you were able to bring, something new, or something that you just thought was necessary to?
No, not really. I mean, I think one of the biggest questions for me as an actor coming back to something after so much time, is the fact that I don't look a lot like the young Scully. My face is much more angular. Obviously, I've aged a few decades, but so. If that's the case, and I am emulating somebody that exists in celluloid so much younger, what are the elements of her that are still evident, and which elements are appropriate and which elements are actually inappropriate because they're a matter of one's age and how one's age ages and matures, and so that's been an ongoing. It's certainly conundrum, but certainly in trying to do right by her. I think there is, other than casual conversations, that are had once the scripts come in, we don't get that involved in the storylines enough to say, I want to make sure that this season this happens for Scully, or that we see, she's always, from the very beginning of her inception, she's been kind of at the forefront of the representation of women on television. So
I was going to say that when you mentioned the women in television, I think genre 2 has also always been a really great place for there to be women who do more interesting things than maybe other genres of television.
Sure.
What do you think of Scully and her place in that tradition of women?
Well, it kind of started with the X-Files. It started on television. Before the X-Files, it was Baywatch, pretty much. And so, seeing a professional, intelligent, equal female on TV very much started with her. So the fact that that was the beginning of the conversation that has spread and been emulated ad nauseum over time is incredible.
Piggybacking off of that, I recently binge watched The Fall, and I thought your work in that was amazing. Can you talk about how the characters of Stella Gibson and Dana Scully kind of compare and contrast, and how it was going back and forth between those two roles?
Well, I never really had to go back and forth between them, because I'm pretty sure that I was done with The Fall entirely before coming back to the 10th season. But part of my intention when taking on Stella was to make sure that you didn't see any of Scully, which was one of the challenges with her, and I see them as quite distinctly different human beings, at least in my head, and so. I hope that the only similarity, that the similarities are, less in personality and more in job description. The fact that they both work in law enforcement, or they both are female. They both, So people have asked before what they would talk about, if they were to get together and have a drink together at the end of the night, what would they be drinking? What would they talk about? And I imagine that probably Stella would drink Scully under the table.
Quick question.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Just one more. Just one more.
So now that the world has gone the way of Mulder, let's say, and he's not the only one who believes in, let's say, chemtrails or reptilians or whatever it is. Where does Scully's skepticism fit into that in 2017?
Well, I think that even in the olden days, yes. Scully's question would be, I didn't see it, and even if I did see it, it doesn't exist. It can't possibly exist. You can still have that. You can still question the existence and the impossibility of something, even though it's right in front of you. So let's say that an alien is standing in front of me. You can still have the conversation of, but how is that even possible? How is that? What they can still. He can still talk about its possibilities, and I can still talk about its impossibilities, and yet we can be looking at the same thing. So I think the dynamic is that hasn't changed, and her degree of skepticism, or maybe her degree of skepticism has shifted, but she still, as a scientist and a doctor, still has to ask those questions of the universe and Mulder and anybody else she can.
Yeah, a healthy skepticism.
A healthy skepticism.